Okay, so we have a couple of questions from you here too. Go
Yep.
for it. What's your question?
So if you could, I don't know if you could see mine. I'm through 5.
Yes, I can.
So what I can't get my head around, which is really driving me crazy, is what I did the 6, and you said to sew it. Well, it's not, number one, it's not matching up. I don't know why. Maybe it was my seams or something. But you just sew it and then set it aside and not attach
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So I just can't get my head around that. I don't know why.
So, so let's go back to the picture then.
Okay.
Actually, let me find some actual pictures for you.
Oh, okay.
Let me.
This is a 5 by. This is I only have a 5 by 7 hoop, so I wish
Okay.
my dream machine is the Luminaire.
Let me
So,
just get to. That's not what I wanted. Where do we want to go? We want to go. Not there either. In here. So, month 5.
mhm.
Now, Simply Dreaming is actually the only quilt that we actually went back to the photographer every single month.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so here is month 5, exactly as so month 4 is this piece just with the applique, and you pieced it together. Month 5, you've quilted it, and you can see we actually quilt right onto batting. So that is where you get to when you're done month 5.
Right. I'm done with 5. I did all the quilts,
just
everything.
hang tight then. Hang tight.
Okay.
So month 6,
yeah,
you are going to create this border.
I did that, but I don't know.
You will have pieced the blocks together, and then you will also have quilted them. After
Oh,
that, and quilting it does shrink it up just a little bit, but as long as you're following the instructions, you've got the right number of blocks,
okay.
you should be good. But
So
you're
quilt them
to,
on a separate strip, like on a
yep,
separate. Oh, okay.
yes.
I don't know why I couldn't get my head around that, but that makes more sense. No.
So you should and it doesn't it definitely doesn't have to be a square of batting that has a giant bit in the middle. You can literally, these guys, if you're doing the 2.5 or the 5-inch blocks, those are actually 3 inches. So if you've got a 4-inch strip of batting, that is however long that is, and then you want to cut the corners on a miter so that you don't end up with a bunch of
right, batting
bulk. And I think we actually show you how to do that in the instructions. And then you're literally going to, you want to make sure that you've got this thing square, but you're literally going to just quilt that and then put it off to the side.
Okay.
And then, so in month 7 and 8,
right, I got those done too, the hearts.
Yeah, so month 7 and 8, you're going to have, month 7 is your hearts, month 8 is this circle border here. That's for the 5-inch blocks. If you're working on the bigger quilt,
no, just the smaller one is what I'm
well, for
working.
anybody who is working on the bigger quilt, then month 7 is this flower border here, and month 8 is the circles.
Oh wow, that's pretty.
And then month 9 is month 9 adds this outside border on here all the way around, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is all applique, and you've pieced your blocks together.
Mm-hmm.
Month 10, you're going to start quilting it. So month 10, you're actually going to quilt around the hearts.
Oh, okay. I see how you did
And
it
you
there.
can see here, we've got a piece of batting,
Right.
and we've literally cut the hole out of the middle of it. We've cut the
Perfect.
center out of the middle of it.
Good idea.
So that you can, and you can literally put the, you've got a square donut shape thing going on here. And you can
Right.
literally sit this over your embroidery machine so that if your embroidery machine is sitting right here, then you're working on this bit here.
Right.
Minimum
Okay.
amount of fabric under the throat of the machine.
Under.
So the rest of the quilt is actually looped over the embroidery machine.
Gotcha.
So that's month 9, month 10.
That was 10, I think. Right.
Oh, that was 10. Yep, you're right. Month 10. So month 11.
Mm-hmm.
Month 11. Okay, so month 11, we did actually quilt the circles
And
from month 8 and the month 9 borders at the same time, because the quilting from the month 8
mm-hmm.
blocks does actually go, if you can see here, it does actually go into the month 9,
Right.
the block underneath the applique, and then also around the outside. So month 12, in month 12, and interestingly enough, I don't remember what happened, but something happened with our photographer. We never ever got a flat quilt,
Mm-hmm.
a flat photo of the Simply Dreaming quilt.
When I finish mine, I'll send you one.
Thank you. Well, part of it is because it is such a giant thing. I don't think we even got a flat picture of the anyway, let's see. This one here kind of shows. So can you see now, and I know this is the bigger version of the quilt, but this is the center of the quilt. This
Right.
is the outside border. So this is month 7 from the
Through,
applique point of
right.
view, right?
Through 10, right?
This here is what you've created in month 6, which has the little circle blocks. They've been pieced together, they've been quilted. You're going to trim them and you're going to bind the inside edge and the outside edge
Okay.
of that as a separate piece that's completely separate from it's completely
Oh,
separate from the rest of the quilt. Then you're going to trim the centerpiece and the outside
mm-hmm.
pretty specifically, and you're going to stitch the centerpiece into the outside border wrong sides together so that the seam allowance is on the right side of the quilt,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that seam allowance is hidden underneath this border, which is essentially stitched in the ditch to attach it.
Right. Kind of like the stitch as you go type quilt.
I wouldn't say no, not really.
Okay.
The center of the quilt is
Uh-huh.
a finished piece. And if you
Right.
wanted to put a binding on it and have it done, then it could be. The outside is also a fully finished piece. And if you wanted a frame for something, then you could bind the inside edge and the outside edge and have it as a finished thing.
Yeah.
But you're going to stitch the inside to the outside. Quilting, you've got the batting, everything there. You're going to stitch them wrong sides together.
Okay.
So that the seam allowance sits on the right side, on the top side of the quilt. That then is hidden underneath this border,
Okay.
which you literally put into position on top of the quilt, and then you stitch in the ditch or in along the inside edge in the binding, like the ditch in between the binding and what have you, and on the outside edge too.
Okay. So you'll be
Sarah,
stitching each piece basically.
this is
You'll
Marilyn.
be,
Oh, hi, Marilyn.
I wanted to mention one thing I had trouble with for that month 6 border piece that gets quilted and so forth.
Right.
It was too big. And so I finally measured from the green dot in the center of the circle to the green dot in the center of the next circle,
Mhm.
all the way around to make sure that it was exactly, I think it's 2 1/4 for the 5 1/2 inch
Okay.
block. At any rate, I was off just a smidge. And for that many pieces, it will
Mhm.
make you off a lot if you don't get it exact.
well,
Right.
here's the thing though. There is actually a decent amount of leeway in here.
Mhm.
And I've kind of come to this conclusion having done the yellow submarine quilt.
Mhm.
Because if you think the yellow submarine quilt was sort of put together like this, but also sort of not put together. That there is actually a fair amount of leeway for it, you know, as long as the center is square and
Mhm.
as long as the hole is square and 1/2 inch smaller than the
Okay.
center to accommodate for your seam allowance. It doesn't particularly matter where, and you've got this thing is actually 2 1/2 inches wide, or it might even be 3 inches wide, I can't remember. But you've got like a full 2 1/2 inches here for that seam allowance. It doesn't have to sit right in the center under here. You've got a fair amount of leeway for where that seam allowance goes. So as long as this border is square on the corners and it sits flat,
Mhm.
there should be enough leeway for it to sit so that your points here actually are in a good spot. Now, if you look at, especially where this photograph is sitting, I look at that point and think that's not very pointy.
Yeah. No, no.
Am I
Yeah.
bothered about that?
I'm not
No.
bothered like that. No.
Um,
After doing all this work, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
that stuff finer.
So I think when we were doing this back in 2019, it was the first time we'd ever tried anything like this.
Yeah,
And I think
it
for
was.
me especially, we were we were mildly terrified by the prospect.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was nerve-wracking watching people getting to this point and putting their quilts together. And there was a little bit of freaking out
Yeah.
going on. I have to say there was probably a lot of freaking out going on where I was sitting watching all of you guys working on your quilts, but we made it. And as Kim has proved, Kim's made 3 of these. At least one of them was a full-size big one, and she's going to make an even bigger one. So
Yeah. No, I'm
there's,
definitely.
and there are a lot of Simply Dreaming quilts out there. It's interesting because in the last 3 months or so, a lot of people have been finishing them too, which has
Right.
been wonderful to see.
I had some family issues and I had to battle cancer, so I had to put it on hold, but I'm cancer free and I'm back sewing.
Hey, I'm so happy to hear that, Chris. That is beautiful news.
Yeah, so we're gonna finish my Simply Dreaming. That's my goal.
Awesome. Well, we will be here. If you
Okay.
have any more questions, we will definitely be here. And
Well,
jump into the Facebook group as well, because there's lots of people who have made them. And Kim is one of our experts, Marilyn also.
Yep.
So keep in touch and let us know how you're getting on.
Thank you. And thank
You're
you very much
welcome.
for helping me.
You're so welcome.